All our stories are created for entertainment purposes only.
Lately, I've been getting this nagging feeling that my wife might be up to something, but I'm not exactly sure how to handle it. I don't have any concrete evidence to confront her with, and I don't want to make things worse if it turns out I'm wrong. It's just been a bunch of little things that have me wondering, especially over the past 4 months. She's suddenly become way more into working out and looking good, even though she's always been attractive and never really cared much about makeup or her hair. Plus, she's become super protective of her phone, which is definitely raising some red flags. Normally, we'd be cool with checking out each other's phones, but now hers never leaves her side. If I ask her to take a photo or something, she insists I use my own phone. On top of that, she's been working late more often and taking more out-of-town work trips in the last few months. She hasn't been the one to initiate any intimate moments, and her kisses have felt more like pecks on the cheek. I've tried to get things going a few times, but she's either turned me down or gone along with it but seemed totally disengaged. It's honestly been making me feel pretty awful, even worse than just being rejected outright. I brought up the lack of intimacy a while back, and she blamed it on being tired from being a mom, work, and her newfound workout routine. She promised to make an effort and said we'd talk about it later that night, but nothing changed. I've also been wondering if this might be some kind of midlife crisis thing. There's this guy at her job who's been on my radar. She used to talk about him a lot, but a few months back she stopped mentioning him. However, I know they still work closely together. From what I've pieced together, he's married with kids and told my wife he's having issues in his marriage. I've met him briefly a couple of times and he pretty much ignored me, even though we were in a group. To be honest, he's not even close to being as good-looking or in shape as me. No bragging, just stating the facts. I'm fit and strong, while he's kinda average and a bit overweight. But he's the flashy, outgoing type who enjoys hitting the bottle, which I'm not into. My wife has even mentioned a few times that she wishes I'd go out drinking every now and then. Now here's the kicker. He has a master's degree and makes way more money than I do. I work as a trainer for fighters, and I absolutely love what I do, but it doesn't pay the big bucks. This guy probably rakes in 6 times what I earn, and he's not shy about flaunting it. I'm bringing all this up just to show how different we are. But the thing that's really been bugging me is her recent work trip to a tropical resort. At the time, I thought it was a big group thing, but now I'm not so sure. So here's the deal. Turns out, during that trip, it was just my wife, this flashy guy, and the CEO. Now, the CEO is pretty old and doesn't seem like the social type. I picture him as all business. My wife and this other guy spent a ton of time together during that week doing who knows what. My dilemma is that I've got this gut feeling, but I don't want to jump the gun and accuse her or ask outright, risking making things worse. We've had our fair share of ups and downs over the years, but overall, our marriage has been pretty solid from my perspective. No major problems or anything. I'm not the most outgoing guy, and I don't make a ton of money, which has been a minor issue for my wife. She's mentioned that she thinks I'm not reaching my full potential and could make more money doing something else. Now, don't get me wrong, she's not obsessed with money, but I know women often feel more secure with a larger financial cushion. She believes I have other skills, but honestly, I'm not really qualified for much else besides fighting or training fighters. That's been my whole life. Or maybe being a personal trainer. None of these things are big money makers, but aside from that, she seems pretty content. A buddy of mine suggested keeping my suspicions to myself and trying to collect evidence if there's anything fishy going on. But the idea of invading her privacy like that if she's cheating just doesn't sit right with me. I can't imagine staying with her if that turns out to be true. What really scares me is we have 2 kids, and the thought of only seeing them half the time breaks my heart. Sorry for the long post, but I'd really appreciate any advice on how to handle this. All right, now that we've set the stage, let's dive into the latest update. So here's the new info. I managed to get into her cell phone account. She uses her phone a lot for work, and nothing seemed off until I started digging through the numbers and timestamps. There were loads of texts to one particular number, especially late at night. A few hours after we go to bed, I'm planning to check whose number that is and find a way to see what name it's saved under in her phone. Seeing all this got me emotional and pretty ticked off. I tried to tell myself it could be a mistake or maybe a girlfriend of hers. Last night I tried to initiate some intimacy, fully expecting to get turned down. And that's exactly what happened. She apologized, blaming it on being tired and having a headache. I expressed that I felt like we weren't connecting well, and she promised to try and be better. She mentioned that last time I didn't push the issue, just said goodnight, and went to sleep. This morning she mentioned thinking about taking a girls' trip to Vegas, even though she's not into gambling. I asked who she'd be going with, and it turns out it's a few girls from college I've never met. Maybe all of this is just a weird coincidence, but a lot of things are starting to look suspicious. So I finally did some digging and checked out the detailed cell phone records online. What caught my eye were these late-night texts to a single number, and they were in the hundreds. I decided to call that number from a payphone, and it led me to one of her coworkers, the one I suspected might be causing trouble. Opportunity struck when I managed to grab her phone while she was in the shower. But there was one major red flag. The text conversation with this guy had been deleted. Plus, his number was saved in her phone under a woman's name. Now, I'm getting seriously worried about those out-of-town trips she took with this guy. I had to leave the house to cool off. And although I managed to come back home, I'm still unsure about my next steps. Confronting her with what I've got might lead to her explaining it all away. I'm torn between keeping it quiet and gathering more evidence or coming clean sooner. My anger is through the roof, and part of me wants to go after this other guy. But I know that won't solve anything. I'm afraid she might just admit to some flirting and not spill all the beans. My plan now is to keep my distance during the times she's texting him, and then interrupt her and ask who she's texting, just to see if she lies to my face. All right, let's dive into the next chapter of this drama. Last night, I decided to play the waiting game after everyone went to bed. I pretended to be asleep and watched to see if she'd sneak out of bed to use her phone. Sure enough, a little after midnight, she got up and went into another room, closing the door behind her. I waited a few minutes and then got up, swiftly opened the door, and walked up to her, pretending I couldn't sleep, and asked her what she was up to. Caught her right in the middle of texting, and I was standing over her too quickly for her to delete anything. I kept a close eye on her hand as she tried to hide the phone. She said she couldn't sleep either and was texting a girlfriend. Now here's where my plan kicked in. I got on top of her and started kissing her and playfully suggested we fool around, just as I had expected. But she declined, so I started laughing, tickling her, and jokingly commented that she must be more into her girlfriend than me. Then I playfully wrestled her and managed to grab the phone. I could see the panic in her eyes as she tried to snatch it back, but I held it in the air like we were playing keep away. I was laughing and acting like it was all in good fun. Then I told her I was going to call her girlfriend and ask if she had feelings for my wife. That's when my wife yelled out, "Please don't call her!" I started walking away and began going through the text messages. I spotted one that said, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow," and decided to press the call button. It felt like an eternity, but the guy answered the phone. I hadn't planned out what to say, so I hung up instead. Then I started reading the texts aloud in front of my wife and asked if she thought her girlfriend answered or if it was a guy on the other end. She didn't utter a word, so I began reading the texts out loud and asked her why she was texting a guy late at night. Her response was a simple, "I don't know." I pressed further and asked if there was something she needed to tell me. Silence followed. That's when I dropped the bombshell. I had looked at her cell phone records and knew everything. I even knew when she'd wake up to text this guy and who he was. Tears started streaming down her face and she apologized. I managed to keep my composure and stressed the importance of the next few minutes. I made it crystal clear that if she didn't tell me the whole truth, there would be severe consequences. She admitted to flirting with her coworker, who was having marital problems, but she insisted it never went beyond that. My worry was that she was only confessing to what I already knew. In response, I told her she couldn't give me half-truths. I asked her to pack a bag and leave. Tearfully, she agreed and apologized again before exiting the house. She even asked if I was going to leave her, and I told her we'd discuss it later since it was late. She left for her mom's house, and my phone started blowing up, so I turned it off. My plan now is to find a marriage counselor and schedule an appointment. I want my wife to have some time to think, and I'm willing to work things out for a while. However, I'll eventually explain that I'm going to counseling to help navigate the process of separation. I had actually planned out this entire incident since the moment I started pretending to wrestle and tickle her. I wanted to protect myself, so I recorded everything with my phone, just in case she tried to accuse me of something. A friend assured me that recording in our state was legal. I don't think she'd falsely accuse me of anything, but if I'm leaving her, she might get desperate. I'm 64 years old, weigh 240 pounds, and I'm still quite athletic from my fighting days. Nowadays, I train fighters, so if there's any accusation of offense, I won't be believed, and I could lose custody of my kids. So, my plan is to record everything from now on, sort of like an insurance policy. Right now, I'm utterly heartbroken. My whole family is falling apart, and I'll miss out on 50% of my kids' lives as they grow up. It's tearing me apart. I suspected something was up, but I'm still in shock. The worst part is that this is just the beginning. I have this urge to confront the other guy, but I know I need to restrain myself. Apparently, he found me intimidating when he first saw me, so I'd like to keep him on his toes. I noticed in one of their texts, she referred to me as the animal, after he made a comment about me not being too bright. I may not have much money or a college degree, but I'm intellectually curious and read a lot, so I don't consider myself dumb. I'll try to provide updates as things unfold. Honestly, I'm not sure what advice I can get at this point. I'm just completely devastated. Update. My friend who's an attorney managed to recommend a lawyer who specializes in family law. Interestingly, this lawyer had also been cheated on in the past, which means he's all about helping people get some payback in these cases. That's what my friend told me when he suggested this lawyer. He mentioned that the lawyer is willing to be quite flexible with his fees and genuinely wants to assist. Maybe this is a silver lining in the whole mess. Now let's talk about the other side of the coin. My wife finally confessed to the affair. She admitted that it started as innocent flirting and escalated into an emotional affair. But at first she claimed it never turned physical. I saw through that right away. Eventually, she came clean and admitted that it did indeed become physical, and this coincided with the time when she stopped being intimate with me. I got way more details than I thought I could handle. To say this affair has messed me up would be a major understatement. I'm struggling to deal with my emotions and can't seem to focus on anything. I told my wife it would be best for her to stay with her mom for now, and I'll take care of the kids so they can have some stability. In the meantime, my attorney is working his magic. I'm still in the house, and according to him, that's a big advantage. I haven't told her yet that our marriage is over. She'll find out when she's served the divorce papers, which will be happening soon. I can't stop these intrusive images of my wife and this guy from haunting my thoughts. I coach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for professional and semi-professional fighters, and I'm throwing myself into my work as much as I can. The physical aspect of my job seems to be helping me cope. Of course, I'm also pouring all my energy into my kids. Aside from BJ, my passion is learning about new topics. Normally, I read for a few hours every night to unwind, but lately, I can't even get through a paragraph without losing focus. It's been tough, especially after finding out they referred to me as a dumb animal. Just thinking about all the other things they might have said is getting to me. I've always been a cheerful person, but the joy has disappeared. On a different note, word has spread about what happened, and a lot of people have offered to help in any way they can. Knowing that I have support definitely helps. Some of my friends' wives have even suggested introducing me to some beautiful women, a few of whom are interested in my newly single status. I won't be dating until this whole mess is sorted out, and probably not for a while after that, but it's nice to know there are options out there. I think I'll be okay. Right now, it's all about focusing on the kids. I'll try to provide another update at some point soon. My wife is in a state of panic and wants to stay married, but I know I can't get over what she did, so staying together would just be delaying the inevitable. Update. Life has been quite chaotic, but I wanted to hop back on this throwaway account and fill you in. I found out my wife was having an affair and learned that she considered me dumb and a loser for not earning a high salary. I decided to file for divorce, and it should be finalized next month. We'll have a 50-50 custody arrangement, and she'll continue to receive spousal support since she out-earns me by a significant amount. That's where things stand legally. Now, let's talk about the emotional fallout. I'm heartbroken, as are my kids. I never imagined I'd be a single dad, but here I am. It seems like my wife is spiraling into some kind of depression. The guy she cheated with decided she wasn't worth the trouble and left. From what I've heard, she's turned to drinking and going out with random guys she meets online. There have been numerous occasions when she's called me, begging for us to get back together and revert to our old life. Part of me wanted that too, but I've stayed strong. However, when she found out how much money she has to pay me every month, She became angry towards me. So now I have to deal with her calls. My kids don't understand what's happening, and every moment they're not with me, I feel miserable. Loneliness is a constant companion. I haven't spent much time with friends. Instead, I mostly stay at home. The girl who works at a coffee shop I frequent even noticed and asked if I was okay because I looked sad. I guess I'm not hiding my feelings as well as I thought. Some people I know want to set me up with women, but I'm hesitant because I feel like I'm marked as the guy whose wife cheated on him. It's been a while, and I have no idea how to navigate the dating scene. I did experience a glimmer of positivity when a few fighters I trained did well on a public stage, but overall, I'm struggling to find motivation to move on. I did have someone I know contact the other guy's wife and show her the evidence I had. I couldn't take any action against him, so this was the best alternative. Initially, she didn't believe it, but then I heard about significant marital issues between them. As far as I know, they're still together, but their relationship is on the rocks. I'm carrying a lot of anger about everything that's happened. It's just mind-boggling how life can be fine one moment and completely upside down the next. On a somewhat positive note, I met a girl through some friends whom I'm interested in. I haven't mustered the courage to ask her out yet, even though she's stunningly beautiful and about 14 years younger than me. That age gap feels like a major hurdle, especially considering what I've been through. My confidence has taken quite a hit, and I feel like she might be too attractive for me. I've been thinking about her a lot lately, and that's pretty much been my focus for the past 6 months. I have to admit it's been the most challenging period of my life. I've always been a genuinely happy person, but now I just feel engulfed by darkness and gloom. Update 2 years later. Let's catch up on how things unfolded. In a nutshell, I discovered my wife was having an affair with a coworker, and as a result, we went through a divorce. Considering I spent a total of about 15 years with her, you can imagine that adapting to my new life was quite the challenge. There are moments when I still feel a tinge of sadness or loss, but those pass quickly. Overall, I'm doing great. My kids are thriving, and they spend a lot of time with me. After the divorce, my wife had to take on more responsibilities at work to cover her new single living expenses and the spousal support she owes me. She used to earn a lot more than I did. When the pandemic hit, my flexible schedule allowed me to have the kids with me and oversee their homeschooling. My job, which involved physical contact with people, slowed down significantly during the pandemic. So, in a way, I became a stay-at-home dad for a while. I took some time for myself after the ordeal. The younger woman I was interested in took on a lengthy assignment in Europe for her company. We kept in touch through technology, and once she returned, we've been together ever since. She adores both me and my kids. She's incredibly compassionate and considerate. Before we met, people described her as someone who resembled Wonder Woman and was one of the nicest people you could ever encounter. I initially thought it was too good to be true, but she's the real deal. I believe there may be some significant developments in our relationship on the horizon. Unfortunately, things haven't fared well for my ex-wife. She turned to drinking and casual encounters with men she met online. Handling more accounts at work has also taken a toll on her. Over the past few years, she seems to have aged about 15 years. She used to be quite attractive, but the last time I saw her, she looked worn out, as if her vitality had drained away. It's strange to say, but that's how it appeared. Her best friend mentioned that she's miserable and not pleasant to be around. I'll never fully grasp how someone who seemed happy and in control of their life can spiral into such a dark place. My ex's friend also mentioned to me that she never expected me to leave her after the affair. I think she believed she had control over me because of her high income. So the affair had consequences she hadn't foreseen. I genuinely hope she finds peace, especially for the sake of my kids. Apart from dealing with some challenges caused by the pandemic, things are going really well. I'm incredibly relieved that I ended my first marriage promptly instead of dragging it out. It was a tough decision, but I knew it was the right one, and I stuck with it. I don't mind taking small steps forward every day, understanding that eventually I'll get through this. For anyone going through a similar situation, it's crucial to focus on the long term. You might initially feel devastated, then sad, then depressed, and maybe even hopeless. But no matter what, keep pushing forward and also make it a point to work on yourself every day. Not just self-help stuff, but acquiring real skills. For me, I started making short films featuring the fighters I trained. I learned about videography and editing, which became a fun hobby. I also read more books to broaden my knowledge on various subjects. The key is to do something each day, no matter how small, that contributes to your growth and skills. These small efforts accumulate over time, so be patient with yourself and keep putting in the work.
Story 2. I'm a 33-year-old female lawyer, and I take my job seriously. I'm damn good at it. I've worked hard to get where I am, and I'm known for being meticulous and dedicated. My career is essential to me, and I always strive for the best outcomes for my clients. I don't allow even the tiniest mistake under my watch. On the personal side, I'm married to probably the most incredible architect in New York City. My husband, a 34-year-old male, is a wonderful man who has always supported my career and life decisions. He meets all the criteria I had for my ideal partner, which was no easy list to check off. We've been married for 5 years and have managed to balance our demanding careers while maintaining a strong relationship. However, since we work in different fields, there are times when we struggle to understand each other. This can lead to moments where I lose the desire to talk to him because I feel unheard. Due to my reputation as a perfectionist, not many people approach me at the office to strike up a conversation and become friends. It brightens my day when a fellow lawyer talks to me like a regular person. Out of the entire office, there's only one person who does that without any intimidation. Let's call him Mike. It might sound terrible, but I found myself fantasizing about him during our conversations, even though he's engaged to his paralegal. One night, I had some work to finish, so I stayed late in the office. Mike was also there because he had some tasks to complete. He invited me to have dinner in his office since he had ordered food. I agreed, and as we ate and chatted, I couldn't help but expect something to happen. One thing led to another, and I ended up on the couch with Mike. I felt guilty when I realized what was happening, but I'm a highly intelligent person, and I knew there was no point in dwelling on guilt over something irreversible. That night, I went home feeling guilty as hell, lying in bed with my husband beside me. But I couldn't deny how good it felt earlier in Mike's company. I had always done everything right, but that one wrong thing felt surprisingly satisfying. Mike and I continued our affair, sneaking around the office, venturing into stock rooms and each other's offices during overtime. Little did I know that one of my colleagues, who happened to dislike me, discovered our affair. She decided to snitch on us and reported it to HR. HR called both me and Mike, and that's when the worst moments of my life began. In the following days, they launched an investigation. They went through the CCTV footage and confirmed that Mike and I were having an affair in the office, which is a serious offense. As a result, we both got suspended. Eventually, my husband found out from a colleague of his whose wife works under me. When he came home, he was incredibly angry. It was the first time in our 8 years together, 3 dating and 5 married, that I had seen him this furious. He unleashed a verbal attack on me, using degrading language. I started to panic when he began throwing things, something he had never done before. It was heart-wrenching when he told me that I had talked about him so negatively that he couldn't even bear to look at me. It's been a few days since that outburst, and my husband hasn't returned home yet. I want to sit down and have a conversation with him to sort things out. I genuinely love my husband, and I acknowledge that what I did was a huge mistake. I deeply regret my actions. This is such a challenging time in my life with the ongoing inquiry that could potentially cost me my job. On top of that, my marriage is falling apart, and my husband is nowhere to be found in this chaos. Can someone please give me advice on what to do? I'm feeling completely lost without any support from friends. Update. As most of you know, I got suspended from my job, but I appealed and, in a way, pushed them to reinstate me. I work with some important clients that are crucial to the firm, and they recognize that. They would follow me if they were to let me go. So I'm back at work, but I can't stand all the judgmental stares. It turns out that the issue wasn't kept confidential, and HR leaked it even though we resolved it fairly quickly. I don't think I can continue working in a place where everyone is passing judgment. People are whispering behind my back and making snide comments, and it's becoming unbearable. And just when I thought I could turn to my family for support, being Catholics, My parents condemned me for committing adultery. I made one mistake, and now I'm considered the worst person in the world. My husband still wants a divorce and has started the process for it. He won't even look at me. That's how much he despises me. I can't help but wonder if I deserve all this mistreatment. We haven't had a proper conversation since this happened, and we're rushing into a divorce. I honestly don't know what to do, and right now, this community is the only place where I can talk about it. Update. It's only been 3 months, but my life has been completely turned around. I'm now living in Wyoming, where practically no one knows me. The divorce is official, and I'm essentially starting fresh in this small state. It's quite unbelievable when you really think about it. After sharing everything with my husband for nearly a decade, it's astounding how one mistake can lead to where I am now. Throughout our divorce, we never exchanged a word or even made eye contact. He wouldn't even give me a chance to explain myself, just to hear me out. If he had, I believe I could have talked my way back into our marriage. I'm pretty skilled at negotiation, and I'm confident I could have made him understand. But alas, that opportunity never arose because he never allowed it. Sometimes I question whether I deserve any of this. I can't seem to fathom how all these events have unfolded in my life. Perhaps I'll never truly comprehend it, and I'll just have to live with it. From having a perfect career and marriage in the most beautiful city, to being alone in a small town with no career prospects and uncertain about the future, I could never have imagined this, even in my worst nightmares. My parents have effectively disowned me and warned my siblings not to communicate with me. Adultery is a huge issue for them, despite the fact that I did nothing but follow their wishes. Well, my story comes to an end here. I want to thank everyone who followed along, and I hope some of you gained insight from my experiences.